Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there, wondering, fearing, doubting.
Hello everyone, it's the Metal Geek. How y'all doing? Today, I'm coming at you with a new segment from my YouTube channel. It's called Metal Geeks Let's Talk. And the first subject we're going to tackle today is Nintendo Kiddy, or did we make them that way? I suppose it would be important to first define exactly what Kiddy is. For example, is Mario a kiddie game simply because it's safe for a kid to play? In its purest definition, sure, I guess you could say that. So are we defining Kiddy as image only? Does gameplay come into it? Well, based on the current generation and what we're considering Kiddy, it really doesn't seem like that's the case. And that's what I'm here to talk about today. Let's all remember our history lessons, guys. I would have to say that perhaps the most prominent example of when Nintendo probably got this Kiddy image was when they released Mortal Kombat 1 on the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo. Now everybody knows what Mortal Kombat is. It's still around today. Extremely violent fighter game. Has what's called fatalities, where you do very, very nasty moves to your opponent, which usually eviscerates them in some very gory way. When the original game came out in arcades, it was considered a smash hit. It was also way ahead of its time when it came to violence. When that game got ported over to the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis, it is well known that the Sega Genesis got an uncensored port of the game via using a cheat code at the beginning of the game to actually play the uncensored version. Where the Super Nintendo version was just completely censored. There was no way to get the blood, no way to get the gore, no way to get the fatalities, at least the original fatalities. Not even by a code. And this is most likely the point where Nintendo earned that Kiddy image, though it is by far and away not the only game they have censored. But let's go back to what being Kiddy is. Again, we seem to be looking at this as an image. If you don't look at gameplay, I guess you could say that Nintendo is Kiddy. Mario is an animated character that has proven to be even more popular than Mickey Mouse. Then you look at other characters like Kirby, you look at other characters like Donkey Kong, and how could we all forget Pikachu? I mean, I swear, look at this thing. It is so adorable. It's just that... Ugh. But what about gameplay? Okay, so Mario's safe for a kid to play. But raise your hand if you've had at least one time where a Mario level has kicked your ass. Yeah, that's what I thought. Guys, when it comes to being Kiddy, sure, image can play a large part in things, but at what point do you stop looking at gameplay? Everybody talks about the hardcore gaming experience, but does having an M rating, blood, guts, and gore, swearing, sexual content, does that make hardcore gaming? How many times can you play the same Call of Duty game over and over again, but with just a different title on the box? Since when is Mario not a hardcore gaming experience simply because it's a family-friendly game? Seriously, do yourself a favor. Go play Epic Mickey and Epic Mickey 2, completely friendly for kids to play, and they actually are challenging. Sure, while the image of Nintendo's characters, Mario, Donkey Kong, Kirby, the Pokemon franchise, and even the Zelda games to some extent, offer a family-friendly image, these games are some of the most hardcore gaming experiences you can find. Why? Because the gameplay is challenging. There's puzzle solving involved, platforming involved, action adventure. Being cute doesn't mean you're Angry Birds. And blowing someone's head off with an AK-47 does not mean you're hardcore. Has this generation started to lose what the real meaning of gaming is? Has gaming become an image-driven medium? Maybe not yet, but I am sad to say that it looks like it is heading in that direction. While we continuously support Call of Duty after Call of Duty after Call of Duty after Call of Duty, each game offering very little in the way of anything new, we have Nintendo in the background, creating game after game, experience after experience, trying to do something new with each and every release of their core franchises. But they're family friendly, so we don't count them. Now okay, it's not fair to say that the entire gaming industry or the gaming fans is that way, because we aren't all that way. Nintendo does have a very core fan base still around. And while I do support the other companies out there making video games, Microsoft and Sony, I do fully admit to still being a Nintendo fanboy. At what point in time did we start seeing games more for their image rather than for their gameplay? Was it during the Sega versus Nintendo era? Was it during that great console war where this all started? at a time when Sega was considered hip and edgy and Nintendo was considered the old guard? Honestly, I don't fully know, but what I do know is that we have to start looking at games for what they are these days. But even if image is what we're looking at, has Nintendo truly abandoned the mature crowd, or do we only see it that way? If we're to look at game ratings, to look at whether it's M-rated, T-rated, or E for everyone, has Nintendo truly abandoned that sector of gaming? Well, the answer to that is, well, no. If you really truly look at what Nintendo has done over the years, Nintendo has done anything but abandon the M-rated crowd. While the generalized hardcore crowd, quote-unquote, would say that the Nintendo Wii was a completely and utterly kiddie system made only for casual gamers, can we truly forget about games like Mad World? Or No More Heroes and No More Heroes 2? How about the various Resident Evil games that were released on it? It did have ports of Call of Duty, mind you not graphically as powerful as its PlayStation and Xbox cousins, but the games were still there. And going back to the GameCube, what about games like Resident Evil 4 or Eternal Darkness? It is widely considered that back on the Super Nintendo that Mortal Kombat 2 was superior to the Genesis version because it was uncensored and it was a far better port of the arcade. And even if we jump into the Wii U today, has Nintendo abandoned people who are looking for teen-rated and M-rated games? Well, no. Xenoblade Chronicles X, Assassin's Creed 3 and 4, Watch Dogs, Resident Evil Revelations, how about the Wii U exclusive Bayonetta 2? All in all, it's not like those games don't exist on the systems. And while they may exist on the other systems as well, the question is, why weren't we buying them for the Nintendo? Is it because the Xbox is hip? Is it because the PlayStation is cooler? They're the same games. They play roughly the same way, sure, different controllers. But why do we choose to purchase them on the Xbox and the PlayStation and not Nintendo? And then turn around and call Nintendo Kiddy that they don't offer us those games. That they don't offer the hardcore crowd the hardcore games they're looking for. Because Nintendo laid it out on the table. They got the third-party companies to come in for the Wii U. The third-party companies produced the games that we were looking for. Or at least what some people were looking for. We chose not to buy it for the Wii U. And then we point our finger and we say, Nintendo's kiddie. Why would I want to be a 5-year-old and own a Nintendo system? Because of image. That's what it comes down to. And I really find this growing trend to be sad. Because the question really becomes is, has Nintendo abandoned us, the hardcore gamers? Or was it us that abandoned Nintendo? We all have our own reasons for owning the consoles that we own. We all have our own reasons for playing the games that we play. But do we really have reason to snub Nintendo when Nintendo made it their point to give us what we wanted? All while still revolutionizing the gaming industry as we know it. This is the Metal Geek, guys, saying, love the games that you love, play the games that you play. But think about this one, and let me know what you think below in the comments. Have a great one.
Cigarettes is all this came to be. We put our trust into the structures we stand upon.